Can't see anything yet. In a minute. Yes, I see it.
Are
It's
we
working.
live now? Awesome.
You are live.
Okay, we're gonna wait just another minute or two because somebody else might jump on by 10. But yay, I'm glad we're actually live this time in time, so we won't miss any of Tory.
Did you just turn it off again, or did it? Oh no,
I haven't done anything to it.
Okay, I've got so many questions for you, Tory. Well, I'm sure people have too. So
excited to answer them.
I have some, and I think Cora has some too. We were chatting, and I told her, "Oh, you should ask Tory that."
Yeah, but I'm sure whatever you say will probably answer some of them. If not, we'll ask you later.
Okay, we're just going to wait about one more minute, and then we will do introductions and get started. Do you have sunshine, Tory?
It's actually really windy and very cold here today. So, yep.
Yeah, it's been super nasty here. We had hail off and on all day yesterday. It was crazy. And wind, rain.
We had a little bit of snow flurries yesterday, but yeah, it's really windy. Yeah.
My daughter's in Tahoe and she had a bunch of snow. She showed me because we were FaceTiming. It was so pretty. Okay, I think we're getting close to getting ready to start. And we're going to go ahead and get started since we're streaming live. So good morning. I'm Anne Whittington with Reinventing Rural. I am hosting today's Women's Entrepreneur Chat, or as we like to call them, We Chats. And we have the privilege of having with us Tory Schmidt from Burns, Oregon today. I'm really excited to have her. She was just telling me before we went live that she's part of the frontier still, so she's very rural. She owns Sage DesignWorks and Spark Collaborative Studio. So I'm asked Tory if she would just share with us about her businesses and then maybe 2 to 3 obstacles that she faced starting up in a rural community and then how she overcame those. So Tory, I'm just going to hand it off to you.
Sure. Thanks, Anne. I really appreciate being on today. So I am the owner. My husband and I are co-owners of Sage DesignWorks. This is a graphic design business that we started right when we moved to Burns. We wanted to use some of the skills that we had learned, through college and just life experience, honestly, to kind of combine we were doing vehicle graphics and vinyl with my artistic skills. So I started doing a lot of business cards and logos, things like that. To start off, I did a couple murals as well in town. There were big, large scale murals that kind of got me known in the community as like a big, having a little bit of a name, I guess. And then we also started Spark Collaborative Studios, kind of as it kind of came out of a need from not only us, but that we saw in the community. So my husband actually renovated our studio in May of 2019. So we started renovating and then opened in December of that year. And we went from 4 artists to 37. So so we've expanded quite a bit. So that's kind of just a really general, so Spark, I guess I can explain a little bit about what Spark is. So Spark now is a retail space for, like I said, artists. So we went from 4 and now we have 37. They're all Eastern Oregon, from Eastern Oregon. Most everybody is from Harney County, except for we have 1 artist now from Baker County. So we are kind of expanding into more, not just Harney County, but just rural artists themselves, which we really, want to just bolster any type of artistic community we can. So that's a little bit about Spark. For me personally, there's not only, there's a million things I could say about, rural, being out in a rural or frontier community, really, about shipping and just financial hurdles in that sense. But I kind of want to talk specifically about kind of breaching the challenges emotionally and what I did to, I feel like, make art a really important aspect of our local community. So one of the challenges that I first faced, I would say, is just growing up in a rural community. There's not really a focus on art. We have a lack of educational opportunities, for students who want to engage in the arts and want to learn different methods and techniques. So, you really have to search for it and you have to look for it. So I was extremely lucky that my grandpa actually sent me to an art camp when I was a sophomore in high school. And that kind of opened my eyes to realize that art can be a career. You don't have to just do it as a side gig. You don't have to just do it, for gifts for your family. It's something that you can actually make a career out of. And it brought in my, my ideas of what I could do as a career, and how I could use my artistic abilities to not only do something that I loved, but also benefit my community. And then one of the second things I wanted to talk about is, financial hurdles. And I'm not really necessarily saying that, I mean, it's hard to get funding in rural communities for things like education, et cetera. But I think it's really hard for artists to value your work and really charge what your product, like that you are putting your heart and your soul into, is worth. So when we first started in Burns, I really undervalued my work. I was not charging enough for the time that it took me, and also for just the expenditure of my emotional expenditure working on these projects. So, as I started to be able to get more jobs, I realized I could start increasing my price, because my product is a really specific product that is, very unique for Burns, I would say. Just in that I can do so many varieties of art styles and methods, and it kind of allowed me to sell myself and bid my work for more. And in the end, it kind of gave me, like I said, kind of a name. Like now people come to me for my work, not because I'm the only option. So I think that's really, really important to realize that your work is extremely important, and it is worth it to make sure you're pricing your work at a level that can keep you sustainable as an artist, and to keep being an artist as a career choice. And then I'd say one of the big last things of the hurdles that we have here, especially in rural communities, is not having space, to display our work and to really meet with clients one-on-one, and for people to see your products in hand. I think that's the tactility of art is really a beautiful thing. And we at Spark have that ability. We have the space and the, chance to show that work to people. And it also allows us to be a collective. So it allows us to have a larger voice. So I've seen so many of my artists come in and they price their work really low, and then they realize, since we are a larger voice together, they actually can start pricing their work higher, because as a group, our product quality is so high that it allows other people to elevate their bottom line. So that's been a beautiful thing to see. And how we overcame that obstacle was just by networking. And I think that's a beautiful thing in small communities, is that it's just about talking to people. It's about putting your ideas out there and really not ever saying no, or not letting people tell you say no, because there's always somebody that's willing to help you if you can, whether it's a small or in a big way, but there's somebody there to help you, whether it's, SBDC resources, or, watching Grow with Google through Reinventing Rural. There's opportunities, to enhance what you're doing, just even within our small communities. So I guess the networking is another, like, a way that we've kind of overcome that hurdle, and making sure that we're making those connections in the community and keeping those connections alive. We try to be really involved. A lot of our members are volunteers in different organizations throughout town. So just making sure that we, as an artist group, kind of show that we are, successful, and you can be successful doing this, I think has been really phenomenal. So.
That's awesome. I appreciate you giving us some network names, Reinventing Rural, the SBDC. That is a really good way to overcome some challenges. I really appreciated what you said about art can be a career, even in a rural community, and the importance of pricing and valuing your work. That's something as an advisor I dealt with all the time with my clients. They would not price their services or their product high enough. And if you can't make a living doing it, then why are you doing it? And so I really appreciate that you said that you guys came together and you encourage each other to keep the prices up and to value your work. And that's awesome. So I know there's a lot of other people that have questions on the call today. So let's open it up. Cora, do you want to start? I think you might have had a question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That was really informative and helpful. And I completely also agree with pricing your art at the right price. That's so important. Yeah, and I see that here also, that people just don't do that. So my question, I guess, is I'm looking at maybe creating a collective with a couple of people here. Jess is also, we're both part of it. And we've been, or I guess my question in regard to that is, what really is a collective in a financial sense? How do you divide, I suppose, responsibilities properly? And then when you look at it from, a business aspect, what is a collective in sense of a business? How does that even work?
Yeah, so I mean, we were really lucky because we've had Brad Abig from Foundry Collective to really kind of help direct us. But because there's honestly so many different ways to organize a business around like this type of collective. Even talking to Annie a few times, they even run just slightly different than how we do it. I think in every case it's different. You kind of just have to find out what works for you. And I know it's probably not the answer you wanted to hear, but specifically for us, we're an LLC, just because, and we wanted to move more into an organization, like member organization type. But at this point for us and our like size and with how much we have going on, it's easier for us to keep it as a small LLC group, if that makes sense, like the partners. And then we have our members. So our members are the folks that really have all the retail space and everything. So it's kind of a mix of a couple models, if that makes sense. So so we have like a membership where folks pay monthly, and then they just get whatever, any money. It's kind of a it's like a gym membership. So my computer's saying my connection's unstable. Can you guys hear me?
You're frozen, but we can hear you. No, that was a great answer.
Okay.
Cora and I both.
Okay. Yeah, it said my connection.
There you go.
So what was the last thing you heard?
we heard everything.
Sorry?
You said.
Okay.
So you said an LLC, which that was great because Cora and I were wondering how you were set up. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Who else has a question? Go ahead.
There's one more thing I wanted to say. There's also the option of the benefit company LLC, which depending on how your organization is run, that's also kind of like what we're trying to work towards. Because with Spark, we don't, all of the membership money, nobody gets paid at the end of the month. It's all volunteer work at this point. All that money goes back into kind of our bank account, and then that money is spent on updates on the building, new fixtures, new signage, just things to bolster the retail space, to make it more
to maintain and
or whatever we need with that money. So nobody's at this point, because of how we've structured it, nobody's getting paid to be at retail or a month. It's just and that's just personally for us, that's how it's run. In the future we want to kind of move to a different organization style, but that for our small community has been the way that it's run, how it's been running. But we've changed like every since we started. It's we went from writing things on paper to our sales on paper to like now we have a full Square system with a terminal and a cash drawer and everything. So
Okay.
just building slowly.
Okay. The only thing I couldn't hear in the beginning, you said you wanted to move from an LLC to something else, which I didn't quite catch that.
It's called a benefit company LLC. So
Oh.
instead of just, yeah, so it changes the organization style of your company so that, I mean, we're already pretty much running like a benefit company LLC, and then all the money that we make is going back to the LLC and not being, paid out to the partners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we're just registered as an LLC.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for asking, Cora. Jess, you said you had some questions?
Hi, Tory. Yeah, I would love to come and see your space, but I had a few questions about the collective and also like how do you separate your time with, because you have so many things going with, running the whole thing and supporting all these artists, and then you have your own artistic things plus also your outreach to all of your, working with the county itself to help elevate the whole of the town, and seeing art through that. I think, like, how do you balance it and have a kid as well?
I'm really lucky. I have my husband works with me, so I feel like a lot of the time, the things that I need help with, like, we don't have to pay for childcare, which is a huge thing. But I would say personally, I'm a busy body. And weirdly, I always felt like I was like lazy for some reason when I was younger, but at this point, it gives me really, it's just fulfilling for me to be able to come back to my community. I was gone for 10 years. And then I moved back with my family. And we just to see the impact that I've had in the last 2.5, 3 years, like kind of empowers me and motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing. I really have seen, people come up to me and like, oh, you're Tory Schmidt. Oh, you did the wings, or, oh, you did, this, that, and the other. And it makes me, it's just that ability to know that what I'm doing is like empowering or helping other people too. And that's why I love doing things like this. I love doing, it's always a challenge, being an artist, and then on top of that, being an artist in a rural community. So if there's any way that I can like help make somebody think that their work is worth it, it like really helps me keep doing what I do. And dividing time, I would say I honestly, some days I'll do like one day of like Sage, one day of Spark, one day of, I'll delineate it out. So like one whole day I'll be working on one business, or, I'll do payouts one day, it just depends on the day. And you can even ask my intern, Allie, I run around like a chicken with my head cut off all of the time.
Yeah.
Can I interject a quick question too, real quick?
Sure.
Thank you. How long would you say? Oh, sorry, couldn't hear that.
Go ahead, Cora.
All right, I think. How long would you say did it take for you to get the business up and running, where you would say, okay, this is more or less smoothly, where I can say like, I feel like this feels more stable now? Sure.
So for us, it was when we had enough members to just pay the rent. So when we had enough of our retail members, that we didn't have to worry about bills and electricity that took probably about, COVID always threw a wrench in everybody's gears, but we were closed for, 3 months. I really thought we were going to be done for, but we actually had a group of artists who came in and said, I can't sell at flea markets, I can't sell at bazaars, I can't sell at galleries anymore because nobody's taking art, nobody's open. So we actually became kind of another hub for that specifically. I kind of went on a tangent, sorry.
No, this.
what was, can you
Well, I guess time frame wise, can you pinpoint it where you?
I'm trying to think of exactly. So I would say after running for about eight full months, not including that time we were closed, but being open for about 8 months, is when we finally got enough artists and interest too, because the thing was about getting the word out, just so people even knew we were open, because we were renovating for a while. So, people would pop in like, oh, sorry, we're not open yet. We're not open yet. So once we finally were open and could advertise for that, it took about 8 months, I would say, total for us to get kind of our footing where we were feeling, confident enough that we had something that was going to keep going.
That's really fairly quickly, Tory, for under a year to be able to pay your bills. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I think that really had an impact because of COVID, actually, because we weren't open for that, for like 3 months. And then once we were open, we had like a drastic increase in our membership.
That's great. I want to open it up to anybody else that's on the call that might have a question.
It's Gwen.
Hi.
So how do you do your market research? Because most of the primary is more like larger cities, and you want to know there's a certain number of customer buyers, density, and also well, I guess the other technical question is your product, because it's subjective in the pricing.
Those are both great questions. Go ahead, Tory.
Yeah. So for the pricing, I kind of spoke a little bit about it earlier. Especially, well, I guess let me touch on your first question first. We do have a website and online portal for our work. A lot of buyers aren't buying from our online network, or our online website is kind of like the way that we outreach to folks that are not in Burns. Like, we're not really expecting the folks that are looking at our website to be looking as our neighbors. So we kind of have two parts of it. There's our website, and then we actually have our brick and mortar is, I would say, different in that we're not necessarily bidding to the folks that are outside of the community. They're the people that are already here. So in terms of market research, I would say, honestly, we haven't done a lot other than just knowing Harney County, and the folks here just make what they love. And we get a variety of people coming through our doors that are from all over, passing through, because Burns is really, it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's the only way to get across the state. So it's kind of like an oasis out in the middle of nowhere. So we get people from all over. But for us, we price our work at what we think it is valued at. And if somebody doesn't think that it's worth that, then they can move on, kind of, is how we feel about it. I've seen paintings, we've sold $1,000+ paintings, through our small, rural art gallery space. So it's not that it can't be done, if that makes sense. It is very hard to price your work, but you really have to take into consideration every aspect of it. Materials, like I said, your time expenditure. Your time is absolutely worth something. If you're spending 50 hours on a piece, you cannot price it for $100. That's absolutely insane. So, making sure that you understand that your time's worth something, your materials are worth something, your soul, because, as an artist, I feel like we all put our heart and soul in everything we do, and that is worth something, so your creativity is worth it. I don't know if I answered your question. I hope so.
No, I appreciate, Tory, what you said about pricing. That was really good advice. And I want to go back to the market research, Gwen. If you need help with that, you can go to the Small Business Development Center, and they have access to a couple of good resources for market research, and they can provide that for you. Does anyone else have a question?
Another question is Gwen.
Okay.
When is it worth it to expand your online sales? Because when I tried with Etsy, sometimes the customer didn't like it, and then they didn't know how to package it in the for the mailing return, and I get damaged broken glass, fragile broken glass returned.
Sure, and yeah, so it does depend on your product, absolutely. I actually, oh, it says my connection's unstable again, so I apologize. But I actually really don't like Etsy personally. I've used Etsy, and I hate to be a naysayer on them, but it's really hard to get your product seen even on Etsy unless you have like a very, very, very specific product and people know how to search you by name. I had no success on Etsy, but I think in this day and age, honestly, Facebook and Instagram are extremely powerful sales tools. You can connect different platforms like Wix and Square and Printful, Shopify. There's a lot of great e-commerce sites that do what Etsy does, but you get to have your own website. So that's kind of the benefit. And I think people really are looking for that online presence. I mean, as interesting as our specifically Burns is a little bit different than, of course, rural and urban or urban places, because we're, we haven't really been, since the actual shutdown, we haven't been like, we've been pretty open relatively. So we were lucky in that sense, but everything's moving to online platforms. And it also broadens your ability to really connect to your customers that you wouldn't normally connect to. So I think Instagram and Facebook are really, really good ways to sell, and they're direct to customer. So you're communicating directly with them. If you are going to go that route, obviously I'd get like PayPal or Square or something so you can run your sales through that. But like your credit card sales. But yeah, I think it is really important to have an online presence, even just to show people what you're doing. Having that connection is just going to increase your following, which is going to increase your sales.
Tory, thank you for mentioning social media. That is really important. My daughter follows several artists, and it's unreal to me how much they sell their work for, and it's gone like that when they put it out. So yeah, social media is very powerful, especially Instagram. I just realized we have on the call an SBDC advisor that could actually help with marketing research if needed. Melinda Short is here today, so I was going to ask if she had a question.
I mostly just had a question about how you advertise and how do you get the word out about so because I've been through Burns, and yes, it is pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. And it's on the way to somewhere. But yeah, so I was just curious how you do your advertising.
Yeah, so out here, we just try to stick with what most folks use. So there are other places that use Craigslist, but in Burns specifically, everybody's on Facebook. So we use Facebook Marketplace or Harney County Free Classifieds. I post in Grant County Free Classifieds, in like our kind of general area. And then we asked our artists also to share any posts that we post on our Facebook page and Instagram accounts. So it's kind of a joint effort and a group effort. I use Canva specifically to do all my ads. I love that program. It's, there is a free option, but the premium, like the pro version, is absolutely worth the money. You can make videos, you can make presentations, you can make, I made, a resume once on it. Like, it's just a phenomenal tool for really quick design work. You could throw pre-made logo, PNGs into it. And yeah, that's how I actually make my ads. And then, we've thought about doing boosted posts, and those are also really, really can be a huge tool on Facebook to specifically target different groups. like I said, we're all volunteers. So, it's just kind of how much time we all have to do stuff. So it just depends on, for us, who has time that week to post things. But yeah, we also, I have to mention that my, one of the gals in our studio, her name's Mary Davies Kearns. She actually writes every week a little artist bio on each one of our artists. So she's been doing that every week for like 4 or 5 months now. So that really helps just get people noticing, like our artists, not only who's in our store, but also just that we're still here, we're still selling beautiful handmade artwork. So
Thank you.
newspaper and Facebook, I guess, and Instagram. That's how we get the word out.
So do you have great signage too, so that people just driving through Burns will see you? And
Yeah, so we do have signage on the front of our building, on our door and everything. We're actually in the middle of renovating just updating the facade of our building. So we don't currently have a big sign, but we have plans to have a large sign above our awning. But we do have a sign we put out on the sidewalk when we're open. We have signage on the doors and everything, and up in the top of the windows. So we try to be as obvious as possible. But like I said, it's just a matter of growth. We've talked about getting a flag to put outside, but it's like just got to do it.
right. Nice. Well, does anybody else that hasn't asked a question on the call want to jump in for one last question? We're almost out of time. You can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, Denise?
I don't have a question, but as a local resident who lives across the street from Spark Collaborative and Tory Stage Business, it has been phenomenal to watch their growth. You get a little bit of enthusiasm, a lot of talent, and a unique idea in a small rural environment. And I think the sky's the limit. And we've had a lot of fun watching Tory and Jeff just reach for those stars. So congrats to you guys. Yeah, I know it hasn't been an unqualified success. You guys have had your battles, but we're so thrilled to have them as part of our business community.
Thank you, Denise. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Not a question. See, nice and easy.
I liked that, but a great endorsement. So
Yeah.
anytime any of us drive through Burns, we need to stop by Spark Collaborative and say hi to you, Tory. And thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you have a million things to do, but I really appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit and answering questions. And can't wait to come see your place.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, having me on here. It was a really fun time.
Of course. Thank you for being here. And thank all of you for joining. And we'll be back on, I believe it's June 11th. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.